On today's show, Oklahoma City moves to a perfect 7-0, and that might cause some changes in New Orleans coming soon. Plus, the Spurs are finally handed their first loss of the season. We're going to talk about all that and every game from Sunday's action on today's edition of Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
What's up, everybody? My name's Danny Cunningham, and you might know me from Locked On Cavs. And joining me tonight, you're not the usual guy, John Karalis from Locked On Celtics. What's up, man?
Not much. How you doing?
I am great. I'm better because I'm joined by you. And on this show, every single night, we talk about every single game from across the association. So make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else. Give us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. And of course, we are on YouTube as well. So if you're watching the show right now, as we get started, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button for us, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest from us here at Locked On NBA. Of course, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code Locked On NBA. That is LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off your first purchase with Game Time. And we have to start, John, today with the New Orleans Pelicans losing to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Thunder moved to 7-0. 137-106. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander scores 30 points. The Thunder look great. All these things that we should expect because they're the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they're awesome. The real story, not just from this game, but New Orleans as a whole. They are winless to start the season. They have been an absolute dumpster fire, and there's a lot to get to. So before you and I can really dive in, I think we need to hear from our guy, Jake Madison, for more.
Pelicans fall to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and there need to be big decisions made here in New Orleans. I'm Jake Madison, host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast. It's another blowout loss for the Pelicans, and they're now 0-6 on the season, and that to me means it's decision day here in New Orleans. They need to make some big decisions, not just about this season. This team has not looked competitive. 3 30-point blowouts already. That's half of the season so far, despite new executive vice president of basketball operations, Joe Dumars, saying the goal was to be competitive. They've failed on that front. But this team needs to decide, are you building for now, trying to win, or are you building for the future? That's a big question here. Rookie Jeremiah Fears has looked good. Should it be the Jeremiah Fears era and not the Zion Williamson era anymore? These are the questions the Pelicans are facing. We're asking more over at the Locked On Pelicans podcast after another really rough loss.
So as Jake said, that is 3 30-point losses. The NBA season is not 2 weeks old yet, John.
Yeah.
Like, we are still pretty early on here.
Yeah.
Do they have to fire Willie Green like now? Is that going to even change anything if they do?
Yes and no are your answers. Yes. I mean, look, the Pelicans have looked listless. They do not look like a team that's out there competing. Okay. It's one thing to go and be in a tough spot with, new players and starting a rookie and, hey, you lose a few games. Okay. No problem. Are you competitive? Are you playing hard? Are you rebounding? Are you doing all the little things? Yeah, okay. If that's the case, then you deal with it. You learn and you move forward. But the Pelicans aren't. They don't seem like they care very much. They don't. And when a team is doing that, the coach is the victim, and whether it's his fault or not, he's the one that's going to go, which is a shame. But that's where you start. But I think Jake is right that that's not where you finish, because the Zion Williamson era has been a big fat nothing. And not only does Willie Green have to, like, all of these guys like Zion Williamson you got to start moving on, which brings up a whole nother set of questions for the Pelicans and the city of New Orleans.
Well, I think the next best question is, well, what is Zion worth on the trade market? But then you even get to the point, well, you can't, if you are New Orleans, and listen, they're winless, they're going to be bad. I don't think they have to try and be bad, but they also don't have their own first round pick because Joe Dumars made a trade that I think still every other NBA front office right now is still scratching their head over, is how the Atlanta Hawks pulled off this all-time heist where the Pelicans go into this season. I don't think anybody had expectations of them being a playoff team in the Western Conference, and they give up an unprotected pick to move up like 9 spots in the first round. So I just look at this and all of it. If there's one team that needs to go back 12 months and just say, we are going to like just restart this right here, it's the New Orleans Pelicans. And I don't think it's close, man.
They face some real challenges because Zion Williamson has 2 more years after this one on his contract, he's making 39.4, then 42, and then 40, almost 45. That's a lot of money. You ask the question, how much is Zion worth? It doesn't even matter what he's worth because a team has to give up a lot to get him. You have to match a salary. And now we're in second apron era. Guys with that kind of salary are hard to move. So you can't aggregate a lot of teams can't aggregate or don't want to aggregate salaries to bring in a guy like Zion, which really makes that trade even more mind-boggling. Like, I don't know what Joe Dumars saw in this team, what he thought this team was going to be, but when we say they're nowhere close, like they aren't in the same time. They're on the other side of the international date line. It's a different day. That's how far away they are into it. Like, so I am perplexed. I've made this joke before, but like, somebody go find a witch doctor somewhere on Bourbon Street and get the curse lifted from this Pelicans team, because nothing is going right. Even when guys are healthy, it's their front office that's injured, sick, something. So as I knock my microphone over,
we're supposed to be professionals on this show.
I talk about the curse and then all of a sudden things happen. Yeah, man, they are in such a tough spot, and they're hard capped at the first apron. So they can't even bring back, more money. They are handcuffed. They are stuck. Their stupidity has got them in a place where they can't even just go into a full tank because it's not their pick. I don't know. I do not know, other than firing their coach, what the Pelicans can do. If that's their only option.
It is the only option. I expect it to happen at some point relatively soon. I mean, it just seems like when the team looks the way that they look right now, I don't know that that's ever going to be far off. And it's not necessarily even about the record. It's about the eye test. Like, watching that team, you can tell, okay, this team is just done. But even then, I don't know that there's another situation in the NBA right now that I would pick the Pelicans over. Like, if you looked at all 30 situations for right now in the next 5 years, I think I would rather be each of the other 29 teams over the Pelicans. I really, truly do. And I'm not trying to knock on them. Like, I would like to see a smaller market like that. As a guy in Cleveland, I'd like to see a smaller market be able to find success there. I think it'd be good for basketball. But I look at this and say, I mean, I would rather be the Nets. I would rather be the Jazz. All of these other teams that have been in the bottom of the NBA for what feels like the half decade, I would rather be them than New Orleans right now. I would.
The Sacramento Kings?
I'd rather be the Kings. I mean, they're cursed
too. Wow.
The Kings didn't trade their own first round pick where they're going to be a bottom 3 team to move up 10 spots in the draft.
My reaction is that is because that is the actual correct answer. The correct answer is that you'd rather be the Kings. No one would ever rather be the Kings, except in this particular case. That's how bad things are. When you'd rather be the Kings, you're in a bad spot.
And that is exactly where New Orleans is. And the team that is probably going to benefit from them is the Atlanta Hawks. They were in action on Sunday as well, as they fell in Cleveland to the Cavaliers, 117-109. Donovan Mitchell had a great game in this one. He had 37 points for the Cavs. Jalen Tyson also had a very nice night as a role player for the Cavs with 18 points. Atlanta, of course, without Trae Young, Jalen Johnson had 23 points for Atlanta. This was a game Cavs jumped out early, John. The Hawks were able to fight back. They took a little bit of a lead, but for the most part, I don't know that it was ever necessarily as comfortable comfortable as the Cavs would have liked, but for the most part, this was a game that Cleveland controlled.
I mean, you have to win this game, as the Cavs, and you're coming off that loss to Boston. Not here to rub it in, but that's a loss that's a tough loss, and the Cavs didn't look good. And I think Cleveland is still in. We're trying to figure some things out without some key players there. They're far from their final form, but you still have to pick up some of these wins, and you can't let a team like the Hawks without key players come back and beat you. That would have been a really, really bad loss. So I want to say it was a must win this early in the season, but you got to rack up the wins now so you can, when your guys come back, you're in a position at the top of the East, like where you should be.
Right. And Kenny Atkinson touched upon that after the game. He said, there's not really a must win in November. That doesn't exist, I guess, unless maybe you're the New Orleans Pelicans right now. That doesn't necessarily exist in the NBA, but this felt like a game that they kind of needed to have for confidence boosting.
Yeah.
The Cavs are currently without 4 rotation players. Donovan Mitchell did play on Sunday night after not playing in Friday night's loss to Toronto. So the Cavs are certainly a team that is searching for health. I think Darius Garland's going to be back soon, and I would expect that team to start to round into shape when that happens. But we did see 2 teams lose their first game of the season. We'll talk about the San Antonio Spurs falling to the Phoenix Suns and the New York Knicks getting a win over the Chicago Bulls next, right here on Locked On NBA Game Night. But first, today's show brought to you by Robinhood. Your ambition just met its match. With Robinhood, you play for the win, not just on game day, but every day. Locking in on every opening, beating your PR, beating it again. Channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood Strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself, so expect more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's Robinhood.com/your, Y-O-U-R, money. Your money, your move. Today's show is also brought to you by Game Time. Basketball season officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those early season games. But let's be real, getting tickets to those games can be a total headache. No one wants a headache. Game Time doesn't want you to have a headache either, because between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout, it can be easy to get very frustrated with all those things, but that doesn't exist with Game Time, because Game Time is the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NBA tickets fast, easy, and most importantly, stress-free. There's no hidden fees at checkouts. You can see exactly what your view looks like before you buy the seats too, with their in-app seat view feature. That is one of my favorite things that they've got going on. Plus, their zone deals are a game changer, because you pick the section, Game Time picture your seats, you save big. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA, that is LOCKEDON NBA, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Again, code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go with Game Time. Thank you again for making today's edition of Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen. Thank you for making the show your first listen every single day. We still have that unbeaten team out there in Oklahoma City, but we saw a couple of unbeatens go down. We're going to start in Phoenix, where the Phoenix Suns were able to take down the San Antonio Spurs, hand them their first loss of the season, a 130-118 victory for the Suns. Let's head on out to our guy, Benjamin Garcia, for more.
Suns absolutely decimate the San Antonio Spurs 130-118. Benjamin Garcia, Locked On Phoenix Suns. You know the drill. There's a lot of things to get into. The Suns made it look easy tonight. And honestly, I don't know what the rest of the NBA is complaining about. You want to beat the San Antonio Spurs? Just shoot nearly 60% from the field and make someone else on the San Antonio Spurs beat you. Victor Wembanyama tonight, maybe the most surprising stat, 14 shots overall tonight, and then 5 shots at half. The Suns contained him doing one simple thing, throwing triple and double teams at him all game long and making someone else beat you. It was impressive, the swarming, suffocating defense of the Phoenix Suns to just make Victor Wembanyama basically irrelevant in this game. Booker, really efficient, really good tonight. The offense, Is this going to be the Suns all the time, shooting nearly 60% from the field? Probably not. But what is the Suns, what is real from this game is that you can tell they're suffocating, they're going to come in with a plan defensively, and you better be ready to get into a bar fight with this team. And so for that reason, the Spurs are handed their first loss of the season, and the Suns get a signature win.
I do agree with Ben in the aspect of holding Wemby's total volume of shots down is the thing that's impressive to me, because guys are going to have off nights, right? Like this is not the first time Victor Wembanyama has not had a good game. And I promise you, for as promising as he looks and as great as he looks, and he looks like a future multi-time MVP, he's going to have more bad games too. But the fact that they were able to keep him to 14 field goal attempts, to me, John, is the impressive thing.
Right. You know, you run multiple guys at him. You can see that he was very frustrated through multiple points in this game. If you can take the ball out of his hands, then you put a young Spurs team in a tough position. And they were missing Luke Cornett, which he's been a big part of their success, playing with Wembanyama, giving Wembanyama a little bit of a break. So shorthanded, it's you take away Wemby however you can, get up under him. You know, the smaller guys, you can see even Booker was in there bothering him. It's tough with Wemby because he's so big, his arms are so long, his hands are so long that he can still maintain a low dribble, but you can still bother him because he still has to get down there. And it's tough because he can beat you, but on a night where he's not doing that, he can get really frustrated. So good job by the Suns to get into his head. And I think it's that mental game that is going to be the next evolution of Wembanyama and becoming that multi-time MVP.
And I think nights like tonight, as Benjamin mentioned, where they're sending doubles, they're sending at times triples Wemby's way. I think dealing with those in real time, because it's one thing to do it in practice, and it's one thing to do it in the preseason, but when you have to process that in real time, as teams are now, very seriously game planning against him, I think in a way that never has happened before in the NBA. Like, obviously he has been at the top of scouting reports, but the Spurs weren't necessarily very good his first couple of years in the league. And I just think that we're starting to see teams play him differently. And I do think it will be a fun thing because, listen, he's going to be, I think if he stays healthy, an all-time great. And all-time greats figure it out. But at a certain point, they struggle with the way that the league adjusts to them. And I think we're going to get to watch Victor Wembanyama in real time try and figure out exactly what he needs to do to beat teams that deploy a defense like Phoenix did on Sunday night. And I think that'll be a really cool thing to watch.
Yeah. And I think like I said, the mentality part of it is big because you're playing a Phoenix team that came into the game 2-4. Everything seemed to be coming easy. And then you see the post-game quotes where Mitch Johnson says, we did not start the game with the proper approach, and it's hard to fight an uphill battle. And Stephon Castle said, I feel like we kind of needed this. We're starting to get a little comfortable. So this is kind of a wake-up call. That's the youth, the inexperience of, maybe Wembanyama being like, I got this. These guys feeling like we got this. We're undefeated. This Phoenix team is beneath us. And you get that immediate hit of like, no team is beneath you. You're Wemby and people are like gassing you up, but you still have to have that right mental approach every single night. And that's one of the biggest challenges of being an NBA superstar and being in the NBA in general. Like I'll put it this way. The Celtics love to say, like Brad Stevens loves to say, the praise is as dangerous as the criticism. And when you're young and you're undefeated and everybody's sharing your highlights, that's just as dangerous as going onto social media and having people tell you you suck, you blew my parlay and all that. Like it can have the same effect if you're not careful. So for the Spurs, I love that Stephon Castle said we needed this. This is part of the learning curve, and you take this lesson and you build on that.
I do think it's a great sign for a young team to realize where they're at and to realize that, hey, maybe we needed to be knocked down a peg. You'd much rather have that happen in November than March or April when the games might actually mean a lot for them. One other game I want to get to before we get to our third and final segment, the New York Knicks and the Chicago Bulls, their first loss of the season. Yes, a sentence we all anticipated to be hearing on November 2nd. Let's hear from Locked On Knicks for more.
Mike Brown as their new head coach. This 128-116 win over the Bulls is probably the kind of night they had in mind for their Knicks roster. Jalen Brunson, 31 points, but Brown said after the game it felt like 9,000. Close enough, Mike. Mitchell Robinson left the game with an injury, came back, left, came back. It's becoming a cycle for Robinson at this point, but he contributed when he was in the game, 5 rebounds, didn't score, but, gave the Knicks what they needed when they had him. Mike Brown said after the game that, Gershon Yabusele not playing in the second half wasn't an injury, wasn't conditioning. It's just he's the half man in the rotation. So Knicks clearly figuring a lot of things out, but so is Mikal Bridges in a good way. 10 points, 9 assists for him, fitting like a glove in Mike Brown's offense. Josh Hart, 14 and 9, despite a report coming out mid-game that he cannot feel his fingers at times because of nerve damage. Mike Brown kept it simple after the game, saying he hadn't heard that Hart is losing feeling in his fingers, but if 14 points and 9 rebounds is what he's doing with numb hands, he's excited to see what he looks like when he's healthy. It'll be an interesting one. Knicks play again tomorrow night right here at the Garden. They're 3-0 at home, 3-3 on the season. They'll look to build on that against a young Washington team. I'm Chris Persianen signing off from MSG.
To Mike Brown's point, Jalen Brunson did record his 9,000th career point on Sunday night. So maybe that's what he wanted to reference. Even if he didn't score all 9,000 of them on Sunday, he has scored 9,000 of them in his career now.
That's the old Kenny Mayne bit on SportsCenter. Not all in one game. That would be a record. They need to figure out the Mitchell
Chamberlain to shame.
Yeah. The Knicks needed this. They hit 23 pointers. That's a welcome thing for Knicks fans to see them shoot 47, almost 48% from 3. That's how you win this game. But the Mitchell Robinson thing, they're so different. They're so much better with Mitchell Robinson. They have to, his injury history, if he's healthy, then the Knicks are going to challenge. It's going to be Knicks and Cavs in the conference finals, like everybody expects. But if he's not healthy, then the Knicks are a tough recovery there. You're asking Karl Anthony Towns to do too much defensively. So that, as the Knicks celebrate this win, and, Bulls fans, it's all gravy for you guys, but I would be concerned about the Mitchell Robinson stuff.
Yes, I think that is the number one thing to come out of this, because if he's healthy, like you said, they are a different basketball team. I think that he is somebody that unfortunately you cannot count on to be healthy because he's got such an injury history. On the Chicago side of things, Josh Giddey, 23 points, 12 boards, 12 dimes, had another very good game for him, but the Bulls do fall to 5-1 on the season. We've got a few more games to get to, so we're going to do that next right here on Locked On NBA Game Night. But first, today's show is brought to you by Rugiet. Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress. I'm tired. Or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support. And that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet.com offers fast-acting doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rugiet makes it easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online. No awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. And if prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by real doctors. It's about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter. So visit Rugiet.com. That is RUGIET.com/LockedOnNBA to get 15% off your first order. Again, Rugiet.com, RUGIET.com/LockedOnNBA. Do not forget that code LockedOnNBA so you get 15% off and that they know we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. Thank you again for making today's edition of Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen. Thank you for making the show your first listen every single day. If you're watching on YouTube, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button, click subscribe, and hit the notification bell. It's the very best way you can help grow this channel. There's another winless team still in the NBA, and that would be the Brooklyn Nets, as they fell on Sunday 129-105 to the Philadelphia 76ers. Sixers did not have Joel Embiid in this game. He was ruled out far before tip-off. Tyrese Maxey had 26 points, but Kelly Oubre Jr., 33 minutes, 29 points on the night, 3-9 from deep, 12 of 21 from the floor. The Sixers are, John, so interesting because they're almost like a team with two totally different identities, and I don't know that they'll ever mesh.
No, they won't, because the Joel Embiid identity is a slow, plodding, get the ball to him, let him do his thing, and you just kind of watch him shoot. When he's not in the game, they run, they put up 96 shots. Oubre gets 21 shots. I mean, that's incredible. They are a fast-paced, up-tempo team when it's Maxey and, it's his team. And frankly, that's the direction the Sixers need to go, but they're stuck in a way that you have to let the Joel Embiid thing play out. You have to try to get him healthy, and you just kind of have to hope that the roster gets used to playing two different ways, because you're right, they're never going to mesh. And so the only thing you can do is be like, it's like a football team where you have, when you want to pass, you put in this quarterback. When you want to run, you put in a different quarterback, and he's your running quarterback. And like, it's just a different, you can run your wildcat with this guy, and then you can just your traditional 7-step drop with this other guy. And you got to play both of them at different times in the game. And I don't know how Philly turns that into a contending kind of season.
Can that be successful though? Because I have heard this phrase in football before. It is, when you have two quarterbacks, you actually have none. And I think if you have two identities as a basketball team, you actually don't have an identity. And that's where I think the danger is for the Sixers, because right now, and everything is super small sample size, and you have to denote that when you talk about these things, but they're playing a very fun, up-tempo style of basketball that I think is, I don't want to say it's easy to play, but I think it's easier for everyone to get involved. It's easier for their roster as it's currently built to shine. Is it one that I think could have a tremendous amount of success this year in the playoffs? Probably not, but I think they have a better opportunity of doing it this way than doing it the Joel Embiid way. But if Joel Embiid's on the floor, who is, a former MVP, and I don't think he'll ever get back to that level, but he's a guy on a max contract. And when you have a guy on a max contract available, you're going to play that guy. They can't play this way, and they can't play either way, I think, to a high enough level if they don't fully commit to it.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's also a little bit of fool's gold going on with the Sixers right now, because Maxey's been playing at an all NBA level, because VJ Edgecombe has kind of made people talk about the rookie of the year race differently. They, if I'm not mistaken, at least I know, when they played the Celtics, up until that point, they had double-digit deficits in the fourth quarter of every game that season. And they had made their comebacks, and that Celtics game was their first loss. That is not a formula for success. That is not a formula for a team that's going to stay at the top of the standings like where they are now. And that's nice. Take the screenshot of this, Sixers fans, so you can remember it. But if you're consistently going into the fourth quarter with double-digit deficits, and you're just banking on, hey, Tyrese Maxey hit half your three-pointers and be an all-NBA player, it's just not always going to work, because he's going to miss some of those shots. And that, like he did against the Celtics, and you lost against a team that you probably could have beaten, should have beaten. So I don't know that it's going to work. I think some of these wins are outliers more than they are part of a trend. And so I think there's going to be like a little bit of a losing streak. There's going to be the piper to be paid in Philly.
It all comes back to even at some point or another, and I expect that it will for the Sixers as well. But let's move on, because the Toronto Raptors beat the Memphis Grizzlies Memphis without John Morant, because of course they were. Here's Joe Mullinax with more.
Mullinax from Locked On Grizzlies here, and I have some breaking news to report. When you're down your top 3 facilitators of offense, you're probably going to struggle winning NBA games. Yes, Ja Morant's suspension is the lead story. Everybody's talking about that. One game, he will be back literally tomorrow night. But the biggest thing for Memphis coming out of this contest is a friendly reminder that they still don't have Ty Jerome. They still don't have Scottie Pippen Jr. And when you're down those 3 primary point guard options, it's going to be really hard for your team to win. That's especially true when Cam Spencer, Jalen Wells, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope combine to go something like 7 for 31 from the field. You just don't have the offensive firepower. Jaren Jackson Jr. cannot do it by himself, and as wonderful as Cedric Coward has been so far this season as a rookie, he certainly is not capable of doing that either. Memphis is now 3-4. They have to hover around 500, waiting to get healthy. Zach Edey, all these other guys waiting in the wings. They can't get back anytime fast enough.
Without John Morant, they're really behind the 8 ball trying to win these games, even against the Toronto Raptors team, John, that I don't think is very good, but it just feels like it's always going to be the same story with this team. It does.
Yeah. Look, Ja was on such a trajectory, man. He was on a rocket ship to the moon, and then all that gun stuff happened, and it feels like it's all fallen apart. And you hear that he and the coaching staff are trying to work through this and move forward together. Again, we're in a similar situation as the Pelicans. Even if they wanted to move him, he's on that same Zion contract. So 39.5, 42, almost 45 this year and the next 2 years. And the Grizzlies are hard capped at the first apron. So they are in a really tough spot. They're in such a tough spot that they have a hardship signing on this team, like already 2 weeks into the season. I don't know where they go from here. Ja was supposed to be the guy that led them back to the top, and it's not happening. And if he can't get along with the first-year coach, what are they going to do? Are they going to try to move Ja, which is going to be very, very difficult? Are they going to move off a first-year coach and empower Ja and be like, hey, this is our guy, and we're going to let him kind of be the coach killer? I don't know. That's going to be an interesting situation to watch in Memphis.
I certainly think it will. And we've got a couple more games to get to, so we're going to head on out to Locked On Lakers to find out what happened in their win over the Miami Heat on Sunday night.
Host of the Locked On Lakers podcast, and the Lakers get a 130-120 win over the Heat in LA. Luka Doncic, 29 points, 11 rebounds, 10 assists, plus 3 steals. He grabbed that 10th rebound like a dude highly aware that he just notched himself a triple-double. Jake LaRavia, 25 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 steals off the bench. There were also really strong contributions on both sides of the ball from Marcus Smart and Jackson Hayes, who got the start in place of DeAndre Ayton, who is dealing with back spasms. And other than a very sloppy third quarter that had JJ Redick visibly angry and often yelling at the team, the Lakers controlled this game pretty much from start to finish, and they are currently in cruise control and seemingly in a very good place. For more Lakers coverage, make sure you are watching Locked On Lakers on YouTube and listening wherever you get your podcasts.
If you want more from that game, head on over to Andy, Locked On Lakers, or Wes over at Locked On Heat. And then finally, John, last game of the night, the Charlotte Hornets beat the Utah Jazz 126-103. What is your giant sweeping takeaway from this game?
The Jazz are not good, and the Hornets are, they have some nice rookies. They have some nice rookies.
I think the Hornets have a path to being fun. I don't know that they're going to be good. I don't think they're going to be good. I think they could be a fun 25-win team. It's like, hey, I'll watch the Hornets tonight.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm so out on LaMelo that I don't find them fun. But I can see why you would, because he adds this whatever this in he's a wild card. He didn't play in this game, but like, yeah, I don't know. You watch, Knipple, you got some interesting young guys there. Knipple had a good game. So yeah, and then the Jazz are, look, I'll put it this way. Both teams won that game.
Both teams did win that game, and you won for making this show your first listen today and for making this show your first listen every single day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else. We are on YouTube as well. So make sure as we get out of here, you do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button for us, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest from us here at Locked On NBA. And we'll be back a little bit later with more about the NBA.